Welcome back to another Telltale Books video, and more of J.G. Ballard, going through the complete works of J.G. Ballard. I'm up to, I believe, number 4, and this is his short story titled Mobile, which appeared in Science Fantasy magazine, a British science fiction magazine, in the June 1957 issue. Now, this story was originally published as Mobile, and this is the version that I have read. Later on, Ballard made the decision to incorporate it into his Vermilion Sands world, though the original story wasn't. He did some rewrites to this story and retitled it as Venus Smiles and included it in Vermilion Sands in 1967. So I haven't read that one yet. I don't know how much similarity there is between the two stories. I don't know how extensively it's been rewritten. But what I'm talking about here tonight is specifically the original story called Mobile. Basic synopsis of the story is you have a town with a public works committee, and they talk to a number of artists about a public sculpture. They finally choose one artist, very famous artist, to do a sculpture, and he does it out of wrought iron, about 12 feet tall. And it's kind of I'm sure you've seen where sculptors today will make a sculpture out of junk, scrap iron, and make it look like a character or something. It's kind of what the description of the sculpture sounds like. The people of the town don't like it. So the husband and wife that were leading the committee and made the decision to do this commission from the sculptor, they take it home and place a sculpture in their backyard. Well, they wake up the next day and the sculpture has changed. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to totally spoil the story, but I'm going to go a little bit into more detail because there's some interesting things going on here that I can't talk about without spoiling it. And that is that the sculpture changes in a way that it's like it's growing. And when they put their hand on it, they can feel it kind of throbbing as if it has a pulse. The wrought iron metal, which is rusty wrought iron, it is living and growing and getting bigger. And through the story, it gets bigger and bigger until it's finally just like taking over their yard and starting to encroach on the neighbor's yard. So they get hacksaws and a crew of people and take down this whole sculpture in a day. The sculptor, of course, is totally pissed off and sues and wins. They have to pay him a lot of money because they basically vandalized his work of art, and it was in the contract that it would be protected from vandalism. So he wins, and all the scraps are taken off to a scrapyard. That's not quite the end of it. I won't spoil it any farther. It's a very enjoyable story, really worth the read. I wouldn't consider it one of Ballard's greatest yet, but we're definitely getting there. You've got the kind of surrealism. This one is not really surrealistic. It's more science fictional, but it's surrealistic in that it's a scientific speculation that, to the best of our knowledge, isn't really scientific. To the best of our knowledge, metal can't live. Unless it's a robot. But even that has yet to be seen. Artificial intelligence isn't real intelligence yet. It's still pretty stupid and still just working along algorithms. Anyway, this is actually, the metal is actually like DNA and cells and able to split and grow and more like a plant than a human being, but still it's life. And it can't be stopped, really. Like a plant, you cut it up and it keeps growing. Only this one, it doesn't die if you refuse its sunlight and water. It keeps going and never shows any sign of stopping. And that's where we get into the kinds of themes. A lot of the best British science fiction of the late 50s and early and throughout the 1960s really is very focused on ecological disasters, and in stories like The Sheep Look Up by John Brunner, which we will get to eventually in my John Brunner read, and just a lot of other authors that touched on these themes of ecological disaster. Like John Wyndham is another one. J.G. Ballard wrote a number of novels like The Wind from Nowhere and The Drowned World, where he focused on ecological disaster. And that's what you see happening here, is this sculpture tapped into something that can't be stopped, and it keeps going, and it's going to transform the Earth's whole ecosystem if somebody doesn't find a way to stop this metal from growing. Now, this story doesn't keep going, and it really just hints at the possibility that the whole Earth could be covered in these growing metal sculptures. But the suggestion is there, and so the idea is there. You have the idea. It raises a lot of issues, even though this one is pure fantasy, really. What other kinds of ecological disasters might result from our technologies? What if we accidentally touched off something that will change the landscape of the whole world? And can we survive in that new landscape? That's kind of questions that enter your mind, and Ballard leaves it for you to think about this and come up with your own answers from this story. But Mobile is definitely beginning to touch on typical Ballardian, not sure how you would say that, typical themes of J.G. Ballard. And is definitely a well-written story, very imaginative. It's short, so you don't get into a lot of characterization, but you got these surrealistic, pseudoscientific ideas coming into the story that will be pretty much the mainstay of Ballard's fiction from here on out. I've enjoyed it very much. Anybody that does like anything by Ballard, I think if you haven't read it, you should give this one a try. I really believe you'll enjoy it a lot. But I don't feel it is among his top work. I don't feel it is a top tale. It's not quite there yet. There's still more to come from Ballard that will be much better than this. This is still an early formative work, I think, but a professional work. So that's Ballard number 4. Come on back for more. Leave comments. Have you read Mobile? Have you read Vermilion Sands and are familiar with the later one? Don't spoil it for me. I'll get there. Leave comments about this or anything else you want to say to us in the comments section. Start some conversations. And come on back, like us, subscribe to us, and we will keep churning out more of these. I'm going to keep reading Ballard and keep talking about this whether you want to hear it or not. Ballard is definitely one of my very, very favorite authors, and I'm going to keep going on this. So we'll see you in the next video.